hear me? Can anybody please just give me a thumbs up that you can hear me? Thank you very much, Candice. Appreciate it. Next up, can I please just get confirmation that you can see the slides or the slides in front of you? Anybody? Thank you, Candice. Next, can I please just get an indication that you all know when your assignment is due? Everybody tell me when the assignment is due. You can stick it in the chat for me, please. First of May. Okay. All right. Can I please just ask, do anyone know if they have an exam date? I'm just checking. An exam date. Anybody, any indication of when the exam is, please? Thank you very much. All right, let's start. Before we start, are there any questions you'd like to ask around assignment 2 at all? Any questions you'd like to ask? No questions? All right, thank you. The recording for the assignment prep, all right, will be downloaded by Friday. Your assignment 2 is due on the 21st, which is next week, Wednesday, on the 21st of May. All right, so the assignment 2 recording will be out by the latest before the end of this week, or hopefully earlier. Very much in tune of what we did for assignment 1 in terms of a breakdown of the questions in terms of the assignment. The same too will apply for the exam prep. We have our last session on the 26th of May, which will cover revision as well as exam prep, which will go through in terms of understanding what the requirements are for each learning unit, as well as to ensure that we are at the right level of how to write the exam, where you'll be writing your exam, and what the requirements are for you to enter the exam hall to write your exam in question. Okay. I know some of you may not have had a handwritten exam for some time, but we'll cover that in detail as well. Also, what I will be doing is closer to the 21st of for your assignment 2 and your exam prep. I will make sure that it is handed in terms of a recording to cover any pertinent points that I pick up towards the time, as well as in terms of understanding that you are comfortable what the requirements are for your assignment and your exam. All right. If there is no other questions, let's crack on in terms of what we're covering. I'm sure that you have all covered your prep for this evening, which we're looking at the following. We are looking at the remuneration, the laws regulating the human resource management processes. The question in terms of what is the purpose of this learning unit number 6, it is there to understand the remuneration practices, the employee wellness, and the laws regulating the human resource management practices, policies, and procedures. It is vital that you understand what these are and how you put them into context of understanding. All right. First up, in terms of, I'm not going to go to the meaning of remuneration, I'm sure you all know that. But in terms of remuneration of understanding, understand what the requirements are when it comes to remuneration. What are the requirements of paying your employees? What is the payment method? What is the compensation method? How does one give the remuneration to the employees in question, and how you put it into context, right? Understand the remittance process of what you need to do for employees. It is not just in today's world in 2025 about giving a person money for the work that's being done. There are other forms of remuneration 2, which we will cover shortly. Understand what the requirements are in terms of disbursement as well as reimbursement of employees. Some employees don't want money at all. They want time back. Some employees don't want time back. They want food hampers back. They will like IT compensation, use of laptops. In the past, the exception was the use of laptops in IT technology remuneration by way of cell phone allowances or cell phones or numerous cell phones in terms of employees. But now it is the norm that people will have cell phones as well as IT technology as well as cellular remuneration in terms of the world that we live in today. And as we move forward in terms of what we are from a point of view of by the year 2030, the question you need to ask yourself, will laptops still be around? Will the cell phone industry, in terms of where you are to remunerate employees in terms of their work done for organizations or employers, will it still be applied? Will there be other mechanisms in place? An example, as the cost of living rises and rises, we are noticing more and more that people are being remunerated not just by financial, but by, excuse me, but understanding what the requirements are by way of compensation in terms of grocery, in terms of understanding, in terms of how you reward accordingly in terms of the workplace. All right. It could be usage of AI technology. It could be use of technology. It could be use of the applicable application of technology. So these dynamics need to be taken into account and factored into how you put it into context. All right. Next up, in terms of remuneration, all right, understand the word remuneration is the money and other types of compensation as discussed an employee or executive of a company receives for their work output. It typically includes base salary or wages, bonuses, commissions, and sometimes excludes tips and reimbursement of expenses. Understand what those requirements are. Here in front of you is a slide. I want you to take 5 minutes. I want you to tell me in the year 2030, which one do you think, or which two do you think will be the most important form of remuneration in the world that you'll be living in or working in the year 2030? It is now 7:08. You've got 5 minutes to have a look at it and tell me in the chat, which one do you think will be the most, which two do you think will be the most important, okay, when it comes to the remuneration of the way the world will go, because it won't just be about salary, wages, commission, and bonuses and stock options. It'll be other forms too. Okay. Any others too that you can think of? All right. So let me know. All right. It is now 7:08. You've got 5 minutes, ladies and gents. Stick it in the chat box and let me know in terms of what you think is the most beneficial. I'll see you in 5 minutes. Okay, that's 5 minutes up. Does anybody have any reply to the question I asked you around remuneration? Which area of remuneration do you think in the year 2030 will be the most applicable? Does anybody have any thoughts or replies? Emma, why would you say that in terms of where we are by the year 2030? And the reason why I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm just understanding your thought process, because in the year that we live in, or the year that we'll be living in by 2030, the use of a company car and fuel allowance will be less because of the amount of cars on the roads. And I'm just giving you an example. Okay, where employers will find value, or employees will find value in understanding, will be an example around, let's say, a Uber allowance. Instead of having a car allowance or company car, you'll be given a Uber allowance, or an alternative, you'll be giving a Uber Air allowance, where in that you'll be given the opportunity to travel to from your home destination to your work, but it'll not be done by a car because cars will become less and less. Alternatively, you'll be given a motor vehicle, which will be a driverless motor vehicle, where they'll literally drive you to work and back at obviously a certain level of expectation. Next, in terms of an allowances of where the companies are going to answer the question, give you a different context, right? Where they'll be giving you, for example, an allowance, let's say, for a meal plan, all right? Where food is becoming more and more expensive, all right? You will be given a meal plan or meals allowance that will be given to you by an organization which you will get already made. Okay. Next up in terms will be time off. Instead of being rewarded financially because of the tax implications and people rather take the time so they can do the time in terms of have understanding what they're working for. Next up in terms of when it comes to technology, the world that we're moving towards at a horrific pace will be the use of AI technology. That will be remuneration. So instead of giving the traditional silly wages, you'll be given a remuneration when it comes to AI usage or use in terms of robotics. Instead of having, for example, a person working in your home, you'll have a robot that'll work in your home and do your basic housekeeping instead of having a person. All right. So these are the kind of things that as the world moves more and more forward, will be a form of a understanding of remuneration. So the traditional mindset of having remuneration will be very, very vast and different of how you look at it, and in traditional mindset, but also in terms of how you put it into context of what you're trying to do. All right. So I think to all of you, just have a look at not just having the the conceptualized or the standard method of remuneration, but look at something that's different. All right. A lot of companies today are negotiating the remuneration plans of what they're trying to do and how they put it into context. So just again, from a thinking point of view, is look at the world through a different lens on how you put it into context. All right. Does that answer the question a bit better, everybody? Emma, does that maybe give a different context of what the world's moving towards? The other thing is, I also want you to take note of in your exam. These are the kind of questions that you'll get asked in your exam as well, right? And we'll cover more now. But again, from an understanding point of view, is how you put it into context and what you need to do in terms of thinking of how the world will be. And as we all know, it's ever evolving around bots and robotics and technologies and AI that will be integrated more and more and more, right? Of understanding. Very quickly, another example: the world moved away from having in terms of utilization, in terms of remuneration, in a traditional mindset. More and more people are saying, I don't want just money. I want it in a different form. I want it in tax breaks. I want it in stock options. I want it in terms of a different way of doing it, in terms of what was done in the past, what I'd like today, and that's going to shift even more when what I'll have in the future in 2030. And you'll all be involved in that process of remuneration. Okay. I hope that helps, ladies. And oh dear, see, we've lost one. Oh dear. All right. Moving on. Okay. So next up, on how you look at your remuneration, all right, is what are the objectives of a remuneration management system, okay, and how do they align with the overall business strategy and goals? The key takeaways are the compensation management ensures fair and competitive pay structures that attract, attain, and motivates not just top talent, but talent across all levels of a business in achieving the business goals. Its key objectives include attracting skilled employees, maintaining morale, ensuring compliance, and reflecting market trends. What is the main objective of the employee management system? In essence, it is there, excuse me, is to have a management system, is to help improve workplace productivity, identify ways to engage and retain talent, and alleviate administrative burdens for HR professionals. Achieving greater efficiency through the use of technology will also help in terms of controlling costs and minimize your compliance risk understanding. What are the key objectives of a compensation system? They are in front of you, but I want you to take away, in essence, it is a process of understanding of how you put it into effect. Again, it looks at to acquire employees. It looks to retain employees. It looks to ensure equity of employees. It looks to reward behavior. It looks to control costs. It looks to have a legal compliance and obviously your administration efficiency of understanding. All right, next up, at work, when it comes to health and safety, it is the understanding of the difference between health and wellness. In short, health is a state of being, whereas wellness is a state of living a healthy lifestyle. Let me say that again. In short, health is a state of being, whereas wellness is a state of living a healthy lifestyle. Health refers to physical, mental, social well-being. Wellness aims to enhance well-being. Let's say it again. Wellness aims to enhance well-being. What is the definition of this? The Standard Dictionary says health and safety is regulations and procedures intended to prevent accident or injury in workplaces or public environments. What do you understand by health, by safety? Okay, a definition is the freedom from those conditions that can cause death, injury, illness, damage, loss of equipment or property, or damage to the environment. All right. In that context, one can then clearly see when it comes to the health and wellness of an employee, the impact of a EAP, right, which is your excuse me, your employee assistance program, which covers a multitude of benefactors for the employee, and in some instances the employer too, don't forget. Okay, so quite simply, the EAP, which all workplaces do have, and they're commonly called your ICAS, or your understanding around your employees of understanding when it comes to looking at their mental well-being, their relationship challenges, or financial or legal advice, or looking at their children in terms of all elder care. And all of those play a role when it comes to the benefits of an EAP. All right, and these are in front of you there, but it looks at increased employee productivity, it looks at reducing absenteeism, it looks to enhance employee retention, it looks to improve workplace morale and culture, which in today's world, as you know, is very, very, what's the word, vital in terms of how we do things, and it looks to cost of savings as well. All right. Ordinarily, what I would do now is I want you to discuss all of these in question, but what you can do at your leisure is go through each one and understand the benefit, because again, this would be an exam type question for 15 or 20 marks, and you need to understand what the benefits are of a EAP, which is your Employee Assistance Program. All right. When it comes to health and safety regulations in South Africa of 1993, this requires all employers to provide and maintain, as far as possible, as far as reasonably possible, practical a work environment that is safe and without risk to the health of employees. These workplace safety regulations are designed to protect employee safety, prevent accidents, and ensure that businesses comply with legal standards. Adhering to these regulations is essential not only for employees' well-being, but also for business continuity, avoiding legal issues, and maintaining a good reputation. What are the safety regulations? Safety regulations are mandatory rules designed to prevent or reduce injuries and to ensure workplace health and safety. They encompass a broad range of topics, including occupational risk assessment, fire safety, and the use of personal protective equipment. These regulations are crucial for protecting employees and other individuals from hazards. All right, what I'd like you to do now is take a couple of minutes. We're now 7:24. Is please take a couple of minutes, and I want you to tell me which one do you think is the most important. Okay, there's not a lot of us tonight. Let's take 4 minutes. I want you to read through each one. I want you to tell me which one do you think is the most important of each facet of the Health and Safety Act of South Africa. All right, I'll talk to you in 4 minutes. Hello, can you guys hear me? Hello? Oh, golly gosh. All right, the question was, thanks, Candice. The question was around which one of those 5 would you think would be the most important? Any thoughts, anybody? Any thoughts? You can stick to it if you'd like to. Any thoughts? Why would you say the first one, ma'am? Why would you say the first one? %. Anybody else? Any thoughts? Anybody else? Thanks, Candice. Emma, Sunay, any thoughts? Yeah, agreed. I think what I'd also like you to take note of is around when it comes to the different options in terms of health and safety, is also you need to understand when you look at the Health and Safety Act of South Africa, right? If the act is not applied in all instances of employees as well as employers, the act cannot be applied in the workplace because of lack of understanding. The safety representatives applied will not know what their work is because they have not been applied. Okay, the incidents cannot be acted upon and made note of and curbed and prevented because of non-compliance to the law. Okay, and the act cannot be enforced by inspectors, all right, as labor department inspectors, because of the lack of application when it comes to the Occupation Health and Safety Act of South Africa. All right. So again, from an understanding point of view, and again in an exam type question, okay, is understand what those questions are and how you put them into context. All right. So again, I just want you to get a grasp in terms of how we put it into context of understanding. All right. Okay. So just over here is the areas of health and safety policy. All right. You have a statement of intent. You have responsibilities of health and safety, and you have arrangement for health and safety of understanding. Okay. So those play a role of how you put it into context and what you're trying to achieve in your business. Okay. All right. I cannot stress that enough when it comes to health and safety. All right. Next up, let's look at compliance when it comes to the rules and regulations. But at this time, I want you to please make a note. I want you to please to go and Google the following laws which are applicable when it comes to your health and safety, when it comes to the laws that are applicable for the I'm going to say the human resource, but the most common laws used in human resource management are as follows. 1, the Labor Relations Act. 2, the Skills Development Skills Development Levy Act. 3, the Occupation Health and Safety Act. And 4, the Basic Conditions Employment Act of South Africa. All these 4 laws have been used over the years in exam type questions. So please, I implore you, in fact, I beg all of you, to please go have a look at Dr. Google, and you look at a summary in Google of all 4 laws. They are in your textbook, and I applied on ARC as well. So please make sure that you understand each one and how they get put into context. Please. All right. It's vital, vital, vital. All right. Next up, we're looking at the Labour Relations Act, or elements of it. We are key components in terms of the law, in terms of understanding. All right. Next up, what laws govern? We just mentioned them now. Again, the four. I'll say it again. The Labour Relations Act, the Skill Development Levy Act of South Africa. 3, the Occupational Health and Safety Act, which we've covered. And the Basic Conditions of Employment Act of South Africa, which you've covered 2. All right. Next up, all right. The basic elements of the employer's rights of a worker is as follows. Right to a safe working environment in terms of workplace free of dangerous conditions and toxic substances. Next up, number 2 is right to a free from retaliation or filing of complaints. And 3, rights to a fair wages for work performed. I'll say them again. Right to a safe workplace. Right, excuse me, when it comes to free from retaliation or filing claims or complaints. All right, rights to fair work wages done for work performed. Work outputted. All right. What are the basic HR policies? I'm not going to go through all of them there. They are there for you, but I want you to understand the basic policies. Oh, hang on a second. Let's go back. We've got a question there. You can't see anything. Oh, Lord, okay. All right. Let's go again. What is doing this evening, but let me try again. Share. Can you just let me know when it comes through? Okay, let's try that again. Okay. Has it come through? Emma, can you see anything? I'll wait till you tell me. Okay, let me just check. Candice, can you see? Candice, can you see? Candice, Sunay, can you see? Maybe Sunay's not there. Okay, not a problem. As long as you all see. You can't see. Okay, all right, let me do it again. Right, let me go out. Boom. There, share. Can you see now, Sunay? Here we go. Okay, got it. Right. Okay, to continue. Next slide. Oops, they go too far. All right, we've done that one. What are the 5 major kinds of employment laws? All right. There are several types of employment statutes, including civil rights, family, medical, workers' compensation, and labor relations laws. Other types of employment statutes include workplace safety, compensation, child labor, and immigrant employment statutes. Here, again, I want to reiterate, we're looking at the 4 following. The Basic Conditions of Employment Act of South Africa, the Occupational Health and Safety Act of South Africa, the Labour Relations Act of South Africa, as well as the Skill Development Levy Act of South Africa. And as I said, I implore all of you to please look and print a copy of the laws so we understand what they are and how they get utilized in question. Okay. Next up, here is an example of the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, which covers numerous, and I mean extensive, examples of where this law is applied when it comes to various things. And I want you please to have a look at them, okay? And there are far too many to look at, but I will cover them in terms of our revision for exam, because I love asking these type of questions. But as an example, okay, what are the employee's responsibilities of the Basic Conditions of Employment Act of South Africa? Okay, and they are: the employee's rights and responsibility is to provide and maintain a workplace in which plants or systems of work so that they are safe for from other workers in terms of what they're exposed to and not exposed to unhealthy hazards. Provide information about the hazards and risks of your job. They must tell you what those requirements are in detail and in writing as per your contract. provide you with instruction, training, including induction and supervision, so you are able to work safely. What is the HR rules and regulations? The human resources policies are a continuation and approach in guideline form when it comes to the HR policy, which are provided for understanding and technical approach around an organization and therefore its employees concerning various aspects of employment. These are there to govern the employee's responsibilities and the employer's responsibilities as to how they put it into context. How does this come into the fore? All right. As you can see in the slide in front of you, it looks at the state, it looks at the population, it looks at the services provided from the state to the population. And in that, you will see in the middle the performance of human resources. And on the left-hand side, it will be underpinned, or it will be supported, support is probably the right word, of policies and procedures around personnel, which is people, education, and allocation of management resources to achieve the demands of markets in terms of its population. Okay, so I want you to understand how each process is underpinned by how each one puts it in context of understanding. Okay, next up, the 5 major HR responsibilities and activities, you know that. Why I put it in? Because it incorporates recruitment and selection, performance management, learning and development, succession planning, and compensation benefits, but to name a few. But here you need to understand what they are in context of the laws of South Africa. A good HR policy provides generalized guidance on the approach adopted by the organization and therefore its employees concerning various aspects of its employment. Okay, having said that, right, when you have a situation from a labor relations point of view, as we're busy discussing, okay, is therefore this slide shows you how each process is guaranteed an outcome or solution. As you all know, the CCMA, which is a Commission for Arbitration and Conciliation of South Africa, in terms of a dispute, and what is a dispute? Any rule that has been broken via the policy or procedure. Okay, it then goes to the commission. It would then go to conciliation in terms of the council. All right, the conciliation is not being achieved successfully. As an example, it will then go to arbitration, which will be a formalized balance of probability outcome, hopeful for a solution. If there is a failure to resolve that, it will then go to the application labor court in Bloemfontein, which is the final or the highest body of decision-making in the labor relations industry. As an example, so you can see the context of how law gets applied to all employees and employers in our country of 62 million people. Okay. All right. Next up, the basic conditions in terms of the Labor Relations Act. It's there in front of you. And the exceptions are as follows. The Labor Relations Act applies to all employers, workers, trade unions, and employee organizations. It does not apply to the following, which is part of your Labor Relations Act. The National Defence Force, the National Intelligence Agency, and the South African Secret Service. How is this applied? In context, okay, I want you to take away from this side. This slide is as the exception, all right, they do not, because they perform a function of total reliance on the organization, which is called the South African government. Okay, so in terms of labor relations, the labor relations laws, the Labor Relations Act will not apply to them, but they will have a separate entity or separate policy that they will subscribe to in terms of what they, the function they perform in our economy. All right. Next up, the 3 grounds of a fair dismissal, which will be the conduct of the employee, the capacity of the employee in his ability or her ability to do his or her job, and operational requirements of the business, i.e. retrenchment. If an employee wants to dismiss an employee, there are 5 vital elements for substantive fairness. The accused employee did commit the misconduct. The employee knew or should have known the rule that the conduct was an infringement of the rules. The rule or standard was valid and reasonable. The rule was consistently applied, and the misconduct was serious enough to merit the harsh penalty of dismissal. All right. Again, when it comes to the Labor Relations Act, know in context how you put it into a context situation. Okay. Next slide. we identify how the process of integration of conflict in an organization, which looks at your grievance and disciplinary procedures. And it is a process. An example will be management, resolution, conflict competence, excuse me, culture, prevention, and containment. The escalation of the context will be over a period of time, right? And the dispute resolution will be in applicable escalation of the conflict versus the passage of time, but in consequence of a process of management, resolution, conflict competence culture, prevention, and containment in its entirety. All right. Over here, looking at your legal regulation for human resource management, these are applied in instances where the prospective employee will have protection for discrimination in selection, initial job placement, and initial compensation. The current employees will have, as discussed, performance appraisal, subsequent job placements, training and development, career or promotion opportunities, as well as other dimensions in the workplace environment as subscribed. All right. Next up, unfair dismissal. I'm not going to go through this, but I want you to take away again in terms of this slide over here, understand how the processes work and what those are in terms of the Labour Relations Act. How is that underpinned? All right, it's underpinned by the Constitution of South Africa, which again subscribes to the Labour Relations Act, which again subscribes to the Occupation Health Safety Act, which again also subscribes to your Basic Conditions of Employment Act. So all the rights, obligations, freedom of association, unfair dismissal, strike and lockout, again, for promotion of collective bargaining, to labour disputes versus resolution and labour peace, as we just mentioned just now, the Labour Court as well as the Labour Appeal Court in this example over here. Understand what they are in terms of how it gets underpinned by the Constitution. Okay. Last but not least, or second last, all right, understand the unfair labor practice and how it gets applied. What you've just discussed here just gives you a written understanding what those requirements are. And last but not least, all right, the changing role of human resource management in the workplace of today, and as we all focus in terms of strategic intent by the year 2030. Okay, they are creating high-performance work systems, measuring high-performance teams' performance in terms of measurement, and looking at a human resource scorecard process. So encapsulates the changing role as what we've just discussed in the examples of how human resource management will revolve around the respective laws that are governed in a South African context of human resource management industry. All right. Are there any questions anybody would like to ask? Anything you're not comfortable with? Or that question you'd like to ask? Anything you'd like to ask, ladies and gents? No, just ladies here. Any questions? Any questions at all? Let's go around the room quickly. Candace, any questions from you, ma'am? Any questions from you, Candace? Candace is having something to eat. Emma Jake, any questions from you? Thank you, Candace. Emma, Jake, any questions from you, ma'am? Thank you very much, ma'am. So now, any questions from you, ma'am? Thank you very much, ma'am. That concludes our session. All right, just to clarify for everybody, I will put the recording for assignment 2. Again, my apologies for what happened just now. Should be in terms of understanding. All right, again, my apologies. Again, from an understanding point of view, for your assignment 2, which you have been given the right one to do, all right, is due on the 23rd, which is next week, Friday. I will make sure the recording is available out and published for you under ARC by a 1 week prior, which will be Friday by the latest, and we'll move forward from there. Again, your exam, as you all know, and our next session will be in 2 weeks' time, which is the, and to make sure we have the right dates, 2 weeks' time from today will be the 26th of May, and we will focus on revision, assignment as exam prep, and anything that needs to be catered for in terms of all of the learning units. I'm obviously making the assumption that you have gone through all the prep work. If there are any questions you'd like to ask or not sure of anything, pop me a mail or the WhatsApp group where applicable, and I'll do my very best to try and get it sorted out for give you an answer. All right. If there's no other questions, thank you for your time. Thank you for dialing, everybody. Have a good evening, and I'll speak to you again in 2 weeks' time. In terms of your assignment, all the very best. If I look at these marks for your assignment 1, it is very, very encouraging, and it's good to see that the work has been applied. And I'm sure the same level up it will be applied for assignment 2. Thank you all. Have a good evening. I'll speak to you all in 2 weeks' time. Thank you.